start of the Iliad. We start at the beginning of beginnings. The fleet can't leave from Aulis until a sacrifice of Agamemnon's daughter, Iphigenia, is made to appease the goddess Artemis. And this tells you a lot about what the Iliad and the epic is rooted in. It's rooted in family. It's rooted in the kind of context for the ways in which that war and the way in which conflict that kind of drive apart those essential connections. And there's nothing more tragic, I think, than think about this beginning of this supposedly auspicious mission of all the Hellenes going to Troy to sack a great city. It hides beneath it the tragic destruction of family, and Agamemnon will pay the price in hell when he comes back. He himself will be sacrificed along with Cassandra. And the stories of what happens to the Hellenes after their triumph is often tragic. But it all goes back to the sacrifice. So let's go. The Temple of Demeter, Aulis. It's right here. The sacrifice took place in the back or the rear of the temple. It's an intimate story of tragic falling apart of the essential bond between a father and his child. It would have taken place right about here. And it gets back to our fundamental point that we want to make when it comes to myth. It's rooted in sacrifice. And when it's time for Agamemnon to end his daughter's life, he does it in a way that makes us understand the reality or the weight or the power of mythology. It's not cute, but it's rooted in that cut to Artemis. Maybe even a pre-Hellenic goddess herself. Goddess of the animals. And that cut and that sacrifice. You've hit ground level stereo. And you can imagine that in the temple, the burning of the wood sacred to Artemis would be the cedar, and the fragrance and the smoke and the smell and the screams and the blood as it poured down on the floor. It all made the whole thing unbearably real. Too much to think about. Would his daughter have been dismembered like an animal sacrifice? It's too much to think about. But maybe that kind of ground level of the convulsions that war brings with it, and the ultimate destruction of the family and its most intimate relationships. That's what the mythoi are calling us to. So we start with tragedy. And now we're going to go to the launching of the ships. We're going to go to the port of Aulis. We're going to look out on the same sea, the wine-dark sea that Agamemnon did. And I can't imagine what he was thinking. I can't imagine his pain as the winds are now propitious and calling for that crossing. And with his dead daughter left behind, it's powerful. Let's go. So as we look out onto the wine-dark sea, here we are at the port of Aulis, the port of embarkation to Iliad. We really get a sense that myth is much more than a story. It's here. There's a place. We can touch it. We can reach down, right? And we can break bread. We can break bread with Homer's world. We can break bread with myth as well. Sometimes I think we get it wrong about Homer. Sure, he had heroes. But really, he created a landscape of tragedy. Landscape that had sites of trauma, sites of pain, sites of pity, sites that demanded atonement. Why? Why write an epic like this? The subject was war. War in Homer's world is a form of anger. It destroys senselessly the earth's creation. It's an anger that needs to be appeasement. It needs some sense of atonement. And the personification of this, of course, is Iliad. A man ruled by his rage. A man ruled by his anger. A man who dragged Hector's dead body around Iliad 3 times, thrice dragged, hooked at the ankles. Achilles would find his atonement. He'd find it with Priam, but after about 15,000 lines of poetry. I think that that's really the heart of what's going on in our journey into how we think about myth. It's not an escapist form of literature. It's not so that we can have a fantasy about the world, but it's so we can think about how the world operates at an elemental level. It's a world that has pain, it has torment, it too has got pity, sights that need to be atoned for. Myth is a great call, maybe for America to rethink about how it thinks about its place in the world. A place where we've created sites of pain, sites of torment, sites that demand pity. Just like the sea.